Amir Jordan, welcome to the Grapple Theory podcast. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here in your Leeds United top, representing Yorkshire. Love it. Love to see the hometown representation.
If I was an actual proper Leeds United fans, I'd be like that.
They're going to be like, oh, I'm going to quiz him on his favourite players now, and you're not going to be like,
It's like, who they're playing in 2 days, no idea. I just like the top, and I am a football fan. But I'm a fan of football, not a fan of any specific team.
No, it's fine. And like we said before, that's probably...
It happens to be the closest team, and this is a cool top as well.
Yeah, and like we said before, like we said before recording, that's probably the less heartbreaking way to be a football fan.
It's nice, because like I was saying, I'm a cricket fan, and being a Pakistan cricket fan is heartbreaking enough. So it's just like, it's nice that I get to watch football from a distance. Don't get me wrong, whenever England play, I get into it. And I always get asked the question, it's just like, oh, how come you support one team for one sport and one for the other? It's because I discovered cricket when I was living in Pakistan as a kid, and I discovered football when I was living in England. World Cup 98 was the first one that I saw, the one that France won.
Yeah.
And that was my first England heartbreak. It's probably the time where I felt most English for the first time in my life was then. You know what I mean? And ever since then, I've been along the ride of the heartbreaks, and I'm just like, oh God, I wasn't even born in this country, but this hurts me as much as, you know what I mean?
Sport is the best way to indoctrinate someone, isn't it? It's so much, the best way to make you feel part of the culture is through sport.
100%.
It's just brilliant. Do you get that with wrestlers?
You don't feel more, whenever England are doing well in the World Cup, no matter what the political situation of the country is, it's the only time you get a feeling where everyone's together.
You feel the buzz, don't you? Yeah, you feel like, oh, this is like everyone, like you say, together in this belief.
It's like this year they got knocked out in the quarterfinals, and it was devastating, but it was just like, you know what, fair play, because we've been doing well recently, and that's meant that there's been like some positivity in the country generally. It does lift everyone up, doesn't it?
The problem is then when we go out in the quarters, then the next day everyone's back to, oh wait, life's actually pretty depressing at the minute.
It is true though, isn't it? That's, you know what, I felt that. Probably because was it during COVID time when they made the Euro final? We might have still been locked down at that point.
No, it was just after they made the Euro final, because then it was full stadium back. Yeah,
everyone's still kind of recovering or whatever, and it was crazy because we made the final, everyone in my family got together and stuff, and no one watches football in my family, but everyone still got together for that big final, and then everyone was devastated, and then literally the next day I was like, oh.
I think that's just the perpetual ride of being a sports fan, though, isn't it? It's just always constant highs and lows.
That's the fun of it, to be honest with you. That's what I enjoy. Yeah.
I know. I'm sure you get it with Pakistan, but I know if Brighton lose at the weekend, that's my weekend ruined. The whole weekend.
It ruins it, innit? Yeah, it puts your mood off.
Everything's gone at that point.
Highlights, innit?
I say to my partner, I'm always like, you better hope Brighton win, otherwise, tomorrow I'm just gonna be really depressed.
It is. It's odd how much of a weird emotional effect it can have on you. It's just it's just a game. But
do you get that with?
Huh?
I was gonna say, do you get it with wrestlers? Are you invested? Because I have a couple of wrestlers that I'm invested in the way I'm invested in Brighton as a football team, where but not in terms of wins and losses, more in terms of the story that I want for them. If it's not happening the way I want, I'll feel like I do when Brighton.
Yeah, do you know what? I was really like that. I used to get a lot like that when I was. So, at the age of about 16, 17, so I'd say about 2006-07 is when my wrestling fandom was at its highest. And that's when the, all the 411 manias and the wrestle zones and all the dirt sheets and stuff were, readily... I know the dirt sheets were way bad, but they were, readily available to me because, we had a better internet connection and, my sisters moved out, so I got full use of the computer at home and all that. Do you know what I mean? So I could watch all the wrestling. And then that's when I'd super get behind. I was super behind CM Punk when he first came in, and then it was when he started cutting the promos, what was it called?
Oh, the pipe bomb and stuff. Yeah,
the pipe bomb and all that stuff. I was like, yeah, this is cool. This is the story. This is the route that I want him to go on. And you'd get really passionate about a certain wrestler, and then the height of nerdism was a wrestler that I really liked that everyone would always boo, and then when they'd get cheered, I'd be like, yeah, go on, cheer. This town likes him.
Yeah, get in.
I always liked Cena, so I was like, Cena will always get a good pop in Boston, even though he gets booed everywhere else.
Yeah.
Go on.
I always felt that the first time I felt that was with William Regal, because obviously, like, he was mainly wrestling in America. And so, like, I grew up with him as a heel. Like, in my mind, I'm just like, it didn't even occur to me that he was English. I was just like, William Regal's the heel. That's who you're meant to boo. And then you'd come over here and he'd get cheered, and I'd be like, why are they cheering?
It's crazy, isn't it? It's crazy what you wonder and believe when you're young without knowing the real story behind it. When it comes to wrestling. So, like, the best example that I've got for that is I didn't really know WCW when it was coming up, like when it was like big. Like we just didn't have the channel, so I was all WWE. So when the Invasion storyline happened, like, I legitimately thought that like Sean Stasiak was a threat.
Because you don't know any better.
Old me looks at Sean Stasiak as like, he's tall, he's in shape. Oh my God, he's going to be a threat to The Rock. He might beat him up and we might lose and all of that. So you know what I mean? Like WWE might lose. So like, I didn't know later on when I got on the internet and I found out that like, oh, they could have had Goldberg, they could have had bloody Scott Steiner, and all these guys stayed because of their contracts and this and that, and I was just like,
they didn't get the good guys at all.
It completely spoils it for you, and everyone's like, oh yeah, the Invasion storyline was so shit and was so this and that, and I'm just like, no, it wasn't. When I was 11 years old, when that Survivor Series happened, the 5-on-5, that was like, this is so weird, but that was of my childhood wrestling. That was like the best pinnacle moment of my childhood wrestling was like that Survivor Series match, the Puddle of Mud Control promo. Do you remember that one?
Yeah.
All 5, and then the SmackDown before where everyone came and did all their finishing moves one after the other. I was just like, what? Come on.
Yeah, that is peak. Especially when you're young, right? That's when it's always at its best. Like, I feel like as you grow up, wrestling becomes very... Like, we love it, but you're still very cynical about it in a way. You know what I mean? You're still very, like... You're more thinking about the way it's run rather than, like...
Yeah, but you know what it is? That's just a symptom of, I feel like, of the way wrestling's gone. And in a weird kind of way, like, I don't know... like, it's obvious, like, wrestling's a lot more exposed now, isn't it? But... I don't know, it's kind of like the fun of it, where it's just like, well, it's an open secret now, like, everything's exposed, and, like, I listen to a lot of the wrestling podcasts and stuff, and it's just like, sometimes I think to myself, like, Kurt Angle sat there literally picking his match apart in terms of how they planned it and everything. Do you know what I mean? Like, The Undertaker gives normal interviews now, so it's just like, it's compared to what wrestling has been conditioned to be since forever, it's changing now. And you know it's changing when the guys at the top are like basically telling you how they plan their matches.
Yeah, and that's sort of what I feel.
That sounds just like, well, what's anyone saying to any of us when like everyone's interested, because there's obviously like do you listen to like all the Conrad Thompson podcasts, and you know, like Bruce Pritchard's got one, Kurt Angle's got one, Lady Jericho's got one, all that.
They're all exposing the business.
I mean, they're all quote unquote exposing the business, but it's obvious like there's a market for it. They're all making a bunch of money. All the sponsors, you see how many sponsors they have on their site and stuff. So like when you look at it from that lens and look at it from a business point of view, well, there's money to be made. That's why it's all been, you know, that's why it's just this would never happen 20 years ago.
It's unthinkable.
It happens all the time now. So it's just interesting to see the way wrestling's going.
Well, that's why we're here. We're here today to expose all the dirt on Amir Jordan and all everything that's got.
What dirt?
But well, while we're on the subject of like the big promotions, we don't talk a lot about WWE here. We mainly focus on the indies. We don't really talk about WWE, NXT, or AEW or anything like that. But one thing
that's all right.
But,
no problem.
But like one thing I'm just curious about, because a couple of people have mentioned it. Not talking about NXT, talking about other promotions and other things they're doing. I think the one that springs to mind is we had Session Moth on the podcast recently, and she was talking about how like her Ring of Honor opportunity sort of got taken away from her over COVID. And it's that idea of like what might have been kind of thing that she was going through.
Yeah.
And I was just wondering, in yourself, with things like NXT UK, because obviously like it's not fair to say there are very mixed opinions on NXT UK and what it did for British wrestling. Like, you know, it's a very Marmite kind of thing. You either love it or hate it. But for yourself, in terms of being there and then having left the way it all sort of like fell apart. Is there any sort of, not regret, but like this didn't pan out, like this wasn't what I expected it to be, like that whole time you spent there, was it like maybe a little underwhelming, or like, not what you anticipated when you joined?
We've kicked off, haven't we? We've started off with a proper humdinger.
Well, I'm just curious about like the emotion behind it, because like,
you know what? It's actually a really good question. I'm actually really glad that you asked that question. So like obviously, yeah, like it's no secret. Like everyone, the thing with wrestling is, especially these days, anything that happens, everyone will always have an opinion, right? The thing if I was to look at it just specifically from my point of view, it was hands down the best experience of my life. It was the best decision that I ever made, right? I'll just throw that out there first, and then I'll track back and I'll tell you why I get to that point, and why 6 to 7 months post-release, having had time to think about it all and let it all settle in, that I am now at this point. Because during that 6 months, I wasn't saying what I'm saying about it now, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because there's a whole host of emotions you have to go through, up and down.
Yeah, like almost like grieving kind of thing, like where...
I was literally about to say the same thing. It's like a stages of grieving thing. And like, I can happily say that now with full confidence. And the reason why that is the case, right? Like, we'll get into like where I started and all that stuff, but I had spent in British wrestling, or in BritWrest, I had spent less than 2 years being part of BritWrest, so to speak, before I got this opportunity. I'd barely wrestled that much, to the point where like I'd not really even actually started to get out there. I'd only just started getting out there, so no chance and no way was I going to say no to that opportunity for someone like myself. To be honest with you, when NXT UK got announced and all the competitors for this tournament were going around and stuff, like I think the one person people least expected to be in it was myself. And when they announced me for the tournament as well, like one of the coolest things, I mean, the coolest part of that was when they announced me for the tournament, I was that skin at that time. I was on the megabus on the way home from signing a WWE contract when we signed them down at the O2 Arena in London. And that's when the YouTube thing came out with Kathy Kelly that was announcing all of this. And I was the last one, and I found out on the megabus.
That's
and
amazing.
My phone overheated because I'd never had that much like interaction with stuff on Twitter. And I was looking around and I was just like, hello, I'm wrestling WWE. No one cared. Do you know what I mean?
You got the megabus to pull over. You were like, I'm too good for this now.
Yeah, they couldn't care less. Like, that woman was worried about her kid crying. That other one was trying to argue with her husband. And I'm stood here, sat here quietly with my phone overheating. So that's the first indication that I was just like, whoa, I'm actually going to do something here, because no one was expecting it.
Yeah.
And even on shows and stuff, I remember for the weeks before that, even on shows, people were like, there was rumors for being thrown about, oh, so-and-so's going to get signed, this is going to happen, that's going to happen. And no one was saying my name. So I thought that was pretty cool. And I was just like, wow, this is an opportunity that, like, I can't turn down. I got offered, before that, I got offered to do World of Sport as well, ITV. So I already had that, like, big offer on the table there. Like I said, I was skint at that time because I used to work in banking and I saved up a bunch of money. That money ran out real quick. And I had to quit my career full time to go on the camps and get into the, like, get myself into wrestling more. Which ultimately meant, because you make so little as an indie wrestler, your money's always going down.
Yeah.
So you start with 10 grand in your bank account, but the longer you spend as an indie wrestler, that'll whittle down real quick.
Always running at a loss. Yeah.
Yeah, especially at the start, especially if you're like, you know, I was getting in my car, like I was spending a lot of money just on petrol, getting about on shows and stuff. So like, a big part of it was I could actually do with it like a wrestling income. Like for an independent wrestler, like, you know, this podcast is about indie wrestling. Like, independent wrestlers do not make that much money. Like, it's hard out there. Even now, like, it's difficult to make a full-time living being an independent professional wrestler, especially if you're trying to make it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're not brand yet. So, like, obviously, like, I was at that time, like, 27, 28, because I started quite late. So I was just, like, looking at myself, and I was still having a little bit of a bloody hell. This is where I'm at in my life. This is how much money I've got in my account. This opportunity comes. Hell yeah, you're going to take it. And then, yeah, like, obviously, the 4 years went, and during those 4 years, like, I got to wrestle for the WWE, which I never thought that I was going to do. I got to go out to WrestleMania as part of WrestleMania Access and wrestle at Access and backstage for Mania, for God's sake. Like, we were invited to WrestleMania, sat in catering at WrestleMania, eating all the sick food. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I was going to say, is it good? Is the catering good at WrestleMania?
WrestleMania catering is next level.
Is
bro.
it?
Honestly, like, there's catering, like, there's Raw catering, or like, there's a catering that we had at NXT UK. We had great catering. They used to give us banoffee pie and stuff. It was class.
Nice.
But WrestleMania catering is next level. Like, you have like all the different desserts and all the different, like every single type of cuisine. Do you know what I mean?
Does it ruin it for you?
Like tent. That's how big it was.
Does it ruin it for you going back to like the indies? Because like again, like the way I relate to it is then as a football fan, like I take my seat. I've got a season ticket at Brighton, so I'm a normal fan. I sit in my seat normally, but then occasionally I'll get the opportunity to go to like a box seat or something, and they'll lay on all the food for you and stuff, and then it's tough to go back to your regular seat. Because you're like, I know how the other half live. Is it tough to go back to like indie catering, like indie backstage food and stuff like that once you've had that experience?
To be honest with you, I get what you mean, but really, honestly, do you know what? I'm super not fussy about that stuff, and I'm just like, if it's there and if it's free, then like, I'll take it. I don't know. I think it's a bit of it. Like, I don't know. It's just. Well, like that, I don't know. It's an Asian thing. It might be an Asian thing. I don't know. Like, out for note. Do you know what I mean? Maybe it's a Yorkshire thing. I have no idea. But like, if it's being offered, then like, there's no hesitation. Do you know what I mean?
If it's there, yeah.
I've never been like that. So like, basically, yeah, it's one of those things where if it's there, but I'm not fussy. I'm not fussy at all. Like, I've had so much fun in like a locker room where you can barely walk and there's barely anywhere to move and there's not even water for the wrestlers. I've had as much fun there as I've had walking around seeing like Undertaker walk past you at WrestleMania backstage being like, what the hell am I doing here? Having like full on
like imposter syndrome.
Yeah, imposter syndrome, yeah. So that what am I doing here and stuff. So for all of that, for someone as young into the business as me and getting all of that exposure, it's like they've got like exposure therapy and it like throw you in at the deep end. Here, you've not had that many matches, but go have a match on TV, go wrestle all these, you know, world-class wrestlers who are now gone on to like do great things.
Yeah.
So me being, it's like if you're playing with people that are better than you, you're only going to get better.
Do they give you that like extra incentive to prove yourself? Because like you said, you hadn't been in it as long, and there are people like who are great on the scene who might have been on the indies for like 10 years and you've been on it for a couple and got that opportunity. Do you know what I mean? Did it make you feel like I've got to prove myself, like that I'm worthy to be here because I've been in the business not as long?
Yeah, 100%. I think like because I was still trying to get confident being on the indies and just getting there and being thrown into that end, I preferred it that way because like I'd rather be in an environment where I'm uncomfortable, that it gives me that thing to overcome. And to be honest with you, if I'm honest, it probably took me a year or a bit to overcome all of that to the point where I was like, all right, okay, like I feel like I belong and stuff. And it's a process that everyone goes through, but that's part of being like, we were developmental. So like, that was my fast track to being a developing professional wrestler. And like, you know, we'd get feedback, and you know, you're getting feedback from people that have made millions in this business, right? You're getting feedback on your matches from like Matt Bloom and William Regal and Shawn Michaels and people like Triple H. Do you know what I mean? Like it's one of those things where like you're bound to get better. You will get better. You're getting training at the Performance Center with like Johnny Moss and James Mason and stuff, and you realize like wrestling's a very simple art, but there's a lot of nuances to it, and there's a lot of like, especially when you're trying to tell a story, which is basically the point of what we're trying to do, and like being in that environment and seeing how it all works, it genuinely does, it gives you so much more of an education and a fast track in terms of learning about the business and like being mature and knowing, okay, well, this is what it takes to get reactions, get over and make money. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And be a performer and stuff. So like for someone like me, looking back at it now, like, yeah, like for those reasons, it was hands down, like all the matches that I had, getting out there and like, you know, wrestling in a WWE ring consistently, like that whole, even I look back and say, even though like it was difficult at the time, but like the empty arena matches, like again, like from a personal development point of view, it's great. If you can have a good enough match in front of no one, you will learn from that. You will, because
because it's all about the crowd normally, isn't it? It's about how the crowd build you up into a match. You're working off them.
Yeah.
And so if you can have a good match without a crowd,
Yeah, after when we came back from COVID, we were the first match. It was a tag match, and we were the first match that was in front of no one. And
No
like
pressure.
it was quite it was. Well, that's what I'm saying. It was quite daunting.
Yeah.
Because like once your music stopped playing, normally on a show you're used to the crowd noise, right? But once your music stops playing now, you can literally just hear the production staff moving the cameras about and stuff, and it's just like, oh, you have that second of like, oh, there's actually no one here in a sport or in a performance where it's all on crowd reaction.
Yeah.
So like you have no idea if you're getting over or not, but at the same time, it's just like it was happening everywhere, right, during that period, and it genuinely was a really good learning experience, even though, like, yeah, I don't want to spend the rest of my career wrestling in front of no one. Pretty sure no one does. But, there was a bunch of things. There was a bunch of things to learn from. Like, I did the mask gimmick for a little bit just before it finished, and I learned a bunch of stuff doing that too. So I always looked at it as a development opportunity. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
In terms of like getting myself better. Now, on the other side of things, like I got my shoulder injured and I ended up going for shoulder surgery, so I was out for that period as well. But I got fully paid. Do you know what I mean? We got paid through COVID and all that stuff as well. And they paid for my surgery, and I managed to obviously make a full recovery and stuff. So, when I look at it as an overall thing, considering the things that were out of my control, i.e. messing up my shoulder, COVID, which no one could have controlled, I look at it as like, it was, hands down, I got to wrestle for the WWE. I get to take that to my grave. Do you know what I mean? Like, where I come from, that was never a thing that could have existed, let alone like actually having a match on any other show.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, like, I don't know if people look for certain controversial answers or not. And if you'd have asked me this question 3 or 4 months ago, you'd have probably got something like that. So I'm glad we're doing it now.
Yeah.
Like I do hold it into gratitude. With all of that said, ever since August when we got released, I have absolutely loved being back on the indies, because now I get to, all of those things that I learned over there, I get to put into practice now. And the thing at WWE is like, there's a lot of rehearsal time, and like obviously everything's taped for TV, and then your match may not necessarily be about you, might be about the other person, so you might not get as much time or what. So like, at the end of the day, that TV real estate is limited because it's TV time that they've paid for. So you do what you can and the best that you can with what you're given when it comes to character, when it comes to the time that you're given or whatever. The cool thing about being on the indies is all of the things that you can learn from being over there, you get to apply, you get to experiment, and you get given a little bit more of a free reign, a bit of flexibility to be like, oh, let me go out and try this and see how it works. And having gone and done that since my release and getting back out on the indies and stuff, like, I'm actually seeing it now.
Yeah.
Because I'm so much more aware of the things that I wasn't aware of before I got signed.
Yeah.
Because wrestling's that type of business where it's just like, if someone doesn't tell you, you won't know.
Yeah, exactly.
That's exactly why. Sorry, go on.
No. I was going to say that's exactly it. That's exactly it, right? Like that's
exactly why a lot of trainees will stay in schools and be like, yeah, no, I'm with this person, and like they won't know any better that just down the road there's someone who may have wrestled for WWE that's running a school.
Yeah.
Because like, if you're not told, then you won't know. Wrestling's kind of that thing. It's weird because like it's what is it, like a indie wrestling is like an unregulated kind of cowboy show, isn't it? That's
exactly. And like everyone's
trying to professionalize and make better and stuff.
Yeah.
It's historically it's been kind of that.
No, exactly. And that's the thing, isn't it? In terms of, because this is the thing, actually, you sort of led it on beautifully, because I was going to ask, in terms of telling people what they may not know, I'm going to ask you to, let's hype up some of the new people on the scene, because this is the thing, NXT UK, again, for all its controversy, the way I always look at it, and the way loads of people that we've spoken to on the podcast look at it, is the fact that if it weren't for NXT UK, and like the likes of yourself, and say like Millie, and Lizzie Evo, and Nina Samuels, and Pete Dunne, and Tyler Bate, and Trent Seven, if it wasn't for all you guys leaving, those spots wouldn't have been open for this like new breed that's come through, who are like making names for themselves now. And like that's been the ultimate benefit of NXT UK, is the fact that these young guys now coming through are getting opportunities that they might not have gone if NXT UK hadn't existed, because there wouldn't have been those spots on the card for them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, it's that thing again, like in terms of what a lot of people might not know as well, like obviously finishing off like the WWE thing from my side, with all of that stuff happening, there was a time, and this links into what you've asked anyway. Like, there was a time where, like, I'll happily say it, like, when you're not wrestling as much as you wanna, and it's out of your control. Like, for me, it was really frustrating, and like to the point where like you can get a bit down on yourself and a bit depressed. And again, like I said, this would have probably been a lot more like if it was a few months ago, I'd have probably said something different. But you actually, when you sit back and look at it, you look at it as part of the journey. But during that time, like I was watching the independents come back to life, so to speak, because whilst we were gone, everything came to a grinding halt during COVID, right? For a variety of reasons. And there was negative press, and then there was no shows because of COVID. And like, obviously people have got, it's people are worrying about finances because there's a cost of living crisis, and our shows are more expensive to run and stuff. But like coming out of that, seeing the scene get busier and more shows run and more talent start to appear, whilst we were signed, whilst our future was uncertain in NXT UK, like I was watching a lot of this and be like, oh, I'd love to work this new guy. I'd love to work this guy. And a lot of these guys that were on the scene now were very young / trainees / like I would meet them at shows doing ring crew before I got signed.
Yeah.
And they've all stuck through it, and like fair play to them all, because I'll be like, it's easy to get through COVID, to get through your injuries and stuff when you're getting paid every 2 weeks because you're on contract. Like it's harder to stick to something when you're not getting paid that much for it. And basically it's gone away because of COVID, and now everyone has to work together to rebuild it.
Yeah.
And like, it's one of those things where if there was ever a time for a bunch of people to quit wrestling, it was that time. A bunch of people didn't, and those people went and helped rebuild the scene. And they're all getting better now. They're all consistently improving now, to the point where I look around now and I'm just like, shit, we did one PW the other week and there was 1,000 people there. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah,
like,
that's mental.
Well, they drew 1,000 people twice.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, shows are still running up and down the country and stuff. Like, so
well, that's the thing with like 1PW, because I was going to ask you about 1PW, because you're on the next show as well, aren't you, in April? And we can hype that up. Yeah. But like, that's the thing. Like, I think, especially from me, I don't know how everyone else felt, but when they first started announcing names and it was all the big names, I was a little worried. You know what I mean? Because obviously, you worry like, is it going to be like old 1PW? Is it going to be like 5-star? Where it's just the big names and they barely draw because people want to see like the indie guys. And so when the indie names got announced, that was really cool. And the fact they were all pitted against these big names was like the best part, because you're like, okay, like this is how it's going to run. It's well run because they're using these big names to put over the guys that we've got here. And that's what I love about it, is the fact that they're using these big names to shine the light on the indie guys that we've got here who are all doing so well. I think that's the coolest thing.
I think, you know what it is? It's the best way to do it. It's the perfect mix, because what a lot of people don't see behind the scenes, it's great to have people like that around the back, so that you can go. And again, a lot of the stuff that I'm saying as well, it's like you get out of it what you put in, right? So like, if Rhino, like that the last show, Rhino was on the show, and if he's in the back, like if you're like, oh my god, that's Rhino, and you're gonna sit in the corner and not talk to him, well, you're not gonna get anything out of it. You're not gonna get the benefit of having someone of that experience that's in the back, that's happy to talk to you like all day. They're there. Do you know what I mean? And like people like that, to be around them and get feedback from people like that have been, that were at the height of the Attitude Era, or whenever it was that they were at their peak. Having people like that in the back makes a massive difference just for the talent, and people realize how much that's improving the scene, because you might get a certain nugget of information from John Morrison that was on the show that no one else in the country is going to give you. You'll go and apply that on another show. That'll make you better. Someone else will see that and be like, oh, I might start doing that, but do it in my way. And then, we don't really quantify how much of an effect all of this stuff can have. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it flows on, and the only way you can quantify it is one day everyone looks at it and is just like, oh my god, the scene's kicking, they're killing it, oh my god, like overnight success. And it's just like, if you're actually part of the cause and effect of it, you can see it happening in front of you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you're experiencing it as it goes, and it all comes with experience, because like I kind of experienced that when it was during the first Brit Rest boom or whatever. I think it's really cool that like I got to be a part of that before like obviously we got signed and stuff, and I kind of snuck in because like I said, like I came back from Canada in mid 2016, so I kind of caught it right at its, you know,
Yeah.
it was just good timing, do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? But it was cool because I got to be part of that special time, which again, like I think British wrestling's gonna never like die off, and there's still gonna be more. There's gonna be a lot more to come in terms of how what it's gonna get. But every period has it's like an era. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it's like the 2000 and what, like 12 to 2018 era was like the height of British wrestling, wasn't it? And it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
when I sit back and think about it, it's pretty cool that I'm just like, shit, I got to be a part of that.
Yeah.
And I barely started wrestling, and I still got to be a big part of it to the point where I got signed to a WWE contract. So I look at it as like a pretty cool achievement. I don't know where we were supposed to.
No, I'm not sure either. But I loved it. I love a good tangent.
Oh my god!
But like, who are the guys that like from like?
Bring me back on track if you ever need to.
No, that's fine. I love tangents. I love like because that's the thing. Like, I started this podcast because like I think that maybe like some other like interviews are always too sort of formulaic. I don't mind just going off on tangents and like just having a chat about stuff. And if it goes wherever, that's fine. You know what I mean? I like that. I like that you just end up places you just didn't think you were going to end up.
You asked me about the new talent. You asked me about the new talent.
I did. Well, I was going to say like leading into that because obviously, again, plethora of new talent now on the scene. And you mentioned wanting to like you like looking and being like, oh, I want to face him. I want to face him. Who are the guys you look at now and are like, these guys are going to be the next top guys, the next ones to run the scene, the next Pete Dunnes, the next Tyler Bates. Do you know what I mean? Who are those guys for you now in terms of not necessarily the style they wrestle, but like in terms of how they're rising and like who you think is really good?
All right, so I'll talk about the ones that I've been in the ring with since August, because I've been very lucky since August till now. What are we in March? Like I've gotten to wrestle a lot of different people on the scene and stuff.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of them to be fair, but like say for example at 1PW we've done stuff, we ended up tagging together, but like someone like Callum Newman and the lads at CPF, like they're really cool. I've gotten the chance to meet all of them at shows and stuff, and like gotten to work against some of them. I think they're doing really good things. I think someone like Darice is a great brand and a great character for the scene. Do you know what I mean? Robbie X is someone who's been around forever, and he's the you know standard bearer now for all cruiserweights going forward in this country. And like it's weird, there's been at different times in Brit Rest, there's been times where it's just like, okay, there was Pac for a bit, then there was Will Ospreay for a bit. Do you know what I mean? When it comes to like that upper echelon of high flyers, and now it's like Robbie. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it shows because he's getting about everywhere. Like I guess that's just a few off the top. If I thought there's a bunch of them. Do you know what I mean? Will Cruz is all forever getting better as a big guy. Like I've just thinking about the people that I've been in the ring with. Like,
well, I was gonna say it's cool you mentioned like CPF there, like because that's the thing. Like so for me, like obviously Robbie's like the standard bearer for the cruiserweights, and for me like CPF and Leon Slater are those ones that are just underneath him.
The one that I missed out, I got to wrestle him at bloody hell, yeah. Like that's what I'm saying. Like in the next 5 minutes, I'll probably get another 10 names.
But that's the thing, right? Like because it's just really cool you mentioned like in terms of Robbie being like that guy for the cruiserweights. There's just too many names. There's too many names. But that's the thing, like Robbie being that guy for the cruiserweights, and then. Like, you look at all the CPF lads and Leon, and, like, they're the next ones. They're the next ones that are going to be fighting for the one, like, for people to be like, they're the standard bearer of the cruiserweight division. Because they're all just phenomenal.
Yeah, they are. And, like, it's that thing, like, they've taken it to the next level because they're also creative with what they're doing. And, like, at the end of the day, it's like, like everyone has their opinions in wrestling, don't they? But like at the end of the day, like wrestling's an art, and it's different flavors of ice cream, right? And you want to go to a show and you want to try a little bit of this, and you want to try a little bit of that, and all of that stuff. So I'm always very open to appreciating different types of wrestling, because that's what I enjoyed growing up. Like I like the variety of it. Like I enjoyed wrestling for the entrances and the entrance music and stuff. That's why I lean to into my entrance a lot more as well, is because I like wrestling because of the music and the entrances, but then I also like high flying wrestling and big guy wrestling and stuff. So like everyone, we've got, it seems like right now we're in the development stages of a bunch of guys that are very aware. So you got like Will Cruz as a big guy. You got, you got people going to Japan now from the UK as well, and like you've got the high flyers and you've got the tag teams. There's a few more tag teams coming up as well. You've got more character guys as well. Do you know what I mean? So like everyone's on that level of like improving, and that'll come through time. But you're kind of ticking all the boxes, which means that, like, if everyone keeps going, then everyone will naturally get better. And the coolest thing is now, I've noticed that there's a lot more. We started getting a lot more. It's not just that one PW, but there's a lot more foreign talent coming over to top British wrestlers.
Yeah,
and I think that's really cool. But then on top of that, there's a bunch of British wrestlers that are now spread out all throughout Europe as well. I don't think there's ever been a time where there's been this many British wrestlers wrestling in various promotions throughout Europe.
Yeah.
Like, we're kind of expanding the scene as well now because the world's becoming a smaller place, I guess. But, like, coming back to the scene, like, when I came back after getting released, like, I had it in my mind, it'll be just like it was when before you got signed, where, like, it's a different type of excitement because this is the first time we're all getting all of this attention, and it was different. I won't say it was worse, but it was different. And then I was still looking for that feeling. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was just like, as part of me had to be like, stop and realize that there's been COVID, there's a lot's happened, lives have changed. It's not going to be like it was, and it's funny because I feel like we all had to do that with different areas of our lives to be like, all right, well, new normal in it.
Yeah.
And that's what everyone was saying. So, like, coming back to that, I was just like, this is weird. But then, like, getting into it more and getting more comfortable with the new surroundings and, with being around new people as well in the locker rooms and stuff and seeing the scene as it is, I'm just like, this is cool because it's different, but it's different in a cool way. I.e., there's more Americans coming, i.e., a lot of our male and female, like, all of our wrestlers are getting booked in Europe as well now. That didn't used to happen as much before.
Yeah.
So, like, cool to see because it's just more opportunities.
Absolutely. Do you have, like, I was going to say, like, coming back to the indies now, do you have a promotion that feels like home to you? Because we get that a lot. We get people who are like, obviously they wrestle like all over the country, but there's one promotion that, like, they're like, that's where they're most comfortable, that's where they love being because it feels like the home promotion. Do you feel like you have that having been away for a while?
Yeah. It's so, like, when it comes to a home promotion, like, I always look at it in terms of, like, the promotion. I always look at it as a promotion that's, okay, well, where did you first make your name in terms of, like, that's where you made your first big splash, right? Where people started noticing who you were and, like, wanting to know who you are. And basically, if you look at it in modern day terms, the promotion after you did the show where you got the most, first time where you got the most followers on social media, right? Let's just call it how it is. That's what it is. Isn't it?
The one that blew you up, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And, like, for me personally, that was North. And that's when I first made my name out and the way to look at it from a wrestler's point of view is it's the first promotion where you got the most bookings off the back of that performance from other promotions.
Yeah.
Then that definitely means your name got out and it's like, who's that? I'll book him. So, like, I'd say that it's North, and, like, the coolest thing about that is whilst being so, like, when we were signing and stuff, like, we were allowed to do indies, but it was restricted for a variety of reasons. And it made it difficult to, like, do independent shows and stuff. And it led to me being quite frustrated because, like I said, like, I wanted to wrestle a lot more. North was one of the places that, like, allowed me to wrestle there. Even though there was a bunch of restrictions that meant that they couldn't promote me in the way that they may have wanted because of my contract, which is fair enough. That's business is business. But, like, it was cool. I appreciated it because at the end of the day, like, it's like a family, and, like, your family is supposed to be there to help you when, like, you need it the most, kind of thing. So I would say it's North because of, and I think it's pretty much the promotion where I've done the most shows for as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say I thought you'd say North. I figured you'd say North, but, like, again, it's that
like
one.
I said, at the same. Sorry, go on.
No, I was gonna say it's just really cool to hear, like, again, like, with the fact that because Andy and the team up at North are just doing phenomenal work. They're fantastic. Like, they run so well. But, like, the fact that, again, they're willing to sort of take that punt and, like, book you and have you on the show, even though they're not really getting anything out of it because they can't promote you. Like, that's just a really nice gesture. It's just a really nice, like, we believe in you kind of thing.
I mean, yeah, like, it's that thing, right? Like, the way I look at it, watching a lot of sports and stuff, like, there's a lot of players that teams put faith into even if they might not be providing the results or whatever, but if you back them enough
Yeah.
and you give them enough confidence, like, they'll perform.
Yeah.
Right? And I feel like in this day and age where we're also short-sighted and short attention spans, everyone like quits on stuff too quickly, and I'm just like, if we just had a little bit more patient with, you know, and that goes for like independent wrestlers as well, where it's just like, if we all just had a little bit more patience and like gave them a bit more positive reinforcement and backed them, they'd get better. But then that would require people to start thinking more positively as well, and that's hard to do in this day and age. So,
but there you go. That's the thing, isn't it? Like, you talk about North, you talk about like financial stuff that's going on in the country and everything, but North are still putting on cracking shows with great talent, and it's selling out every show. Like, people like
easily
they love that. They love it. Like, in Newcastle, they fucking love North. It's just, it has that vibe about it that like. It's like you say, it's like a family, it's like a community thing where people are like, we're supporting this because it's from here, it's our place, this is our home. And like, so they're willing to part their money to be with it, or part their time to be on the show. And
yeah, of course. And like, just as a general thing, just on the indies as well, it's weird because like so like when I was at the height of wrestling nerddom, 16, 17, whatever that age was, I used to get into like, I properly got into like indie wrestling, and like I was listening to all the shoot interviews and all the podcasts when they started coming out, and like even like Cabana's podcast, like when it first started coming out, like I was listening to episode 3 and 4 whilst they were coming out on Apple, whatever Apple it was. I don't even think it was on Spotify. It was on Apple Podcasts. And then like I remember watching. Do you remember Wrestling Road Diaries?
Yeah, vaguely.
It was like It was Bryan Danielson, Sal Rinauro, and Luke Gallows was in the second one, but it was someone else. Because there was a few. They made a few. But basically, I watched that and I was like, this is basically the life of an independent wrestler. I'm like, I would love to do something like that. And that was me like dreaming about that stuff when I was 16, 17, knowing that being a wrestler was never possible for me.
Yeah.
Right? Because like I was supposed to go to uni, go to get an education, get a job, get married, buy a mortgage, whatever. So like that was kind of like the pipe dream that was just like, oh, like if I was to ever do something, I'd do that. I'd be an independent wrestler because it's so cool. You get to go around different weird. I like traveling as well, but traveling, you get to go to like all these different weird little towns and like be on the road and be a professional wrestler and like, you know, be with the boys and like everyone that you're wrestling with, people that share the same passion, all that stuff. And then like it got to a point where I actually got to experience it by like going to all the weirdest towns in England and like the big cities and Birkenhead to Glasgow to bloody all of Bognor Regis, Minehead, Skegness, Southport, bloody hell, Greenstands, Country Park. Anyway, all of those places, you know what I mean? But so like I really enjoyed the indie wrestling aspect of it. But one thing that you miss when I got signed, one of the things that I missed the most was being on the road and on the independent shows.
Yeah.
And like, you know, having that freedom a little bit more. Yeah.
It's more like, obviously still fun, but it's more like, I imagine, like monotonous. Like every day's pretty much the same. Like you're going to the same place to like train and then you're on the show and like...
Yeah, that's part of the development, and that's part of your of your job, especially if you sign a contract and if you're going to be a professional, right? You've got to do like there's days when I can't be asked going to the gym, but I still got to do it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like obviously WWE is where the biggest opportunities. WWE is ultimately, if you're going to be, everyone can say what they want, but like we all grew up watching WWE. Like I genuinely feel, unless like there were certain people that just watched WCW back in the day and that was it, or Japan or ECW, right? Like whatever thing that they're fans of now, most of us grew up being fans of WWE.
Yeah.
Whether we like it or not, let's be honest, we all watched WWE. And that's what, like, when we got older and, you know, there was other options and all that stuff, like, you know, things change and, you know, you get other options and stuff. So, like, for me, WWE is always the ultimate goal. So and then when you're in that system, you fit like a cog in the wheel of that system. We all know this, right? We all know enough about wrestling that that's the case. And like you get to, you know, it's cool because it's like you say, you get to live that life of like, you get the nice catering, you get flown about, you get to stay in the nice hotels, you're on national TV every week, you're getting the attention, all that stuff, and like most importantly, the way I look at it, it's just like, well, you're making big money that you can actually like change your life with and set yourself up with.
Yeah.
You know, like 2 or 3 years on the main roster can literally change your life if you're smart with your money and stuff.
Yeah.
So like that's the ultimate adult end goal in terms of like actually making it and stuff. But there's a lot of fun to be had on the way there. And I guess what I've learned about myself throughout this whole journey is that like I am more of a journey guy.
I was gonna say we've had a few people that are like talk about the fact that like the dream is WWE, and like there are certain times where you can't fully appreciate what you've got on the indies because your focus is like, I want to be there, I want to be doing better. But I think that's the important thing, isn't it? Is enjoying the journey, is enjoying the stuff you're doing, because it's really cool.
I feel like enough people don't do that because we're all so anxious and wrapped up in trying to, I hope I get over, I hope this move hits, and I hope this and that, which is natural. And I used to be like that. And my overall point with talking about all of that stuff is that there's a few things now, ADHD brain, bloody hell. One part of it, I told you, I got all
that's fine, I'm happy with it. I love the tangents, I love a proper storytelling.
No, one part of it is, right, that, what were we talking about? The WWE thing now, I started laughing.
Yeah, we were talking about the WWE thing and like just sort of like enjoying the journey, appreciating the journey you're on before you get there.
Appreciating the journey and all that stuff, and it's one of the things that like I'll never forget. Like, I don't know how else to put this. This is why I'm struggling. It's like there'll never be a time again where you're getting over, if that makes sense. The first time there'll never be another time where it's the first time people get to know who you are and people are getting out and people think that you're good and you got good people, because that's the thing that gives you the initial confidence, the initial boost.
Yeah.
So that feeling will never happen again, because once you're known, you're already known.
Yeah.
You get what I mean?
Yeah. Once, like you say, once you're over, you're over. Like you might be a heel place, might be a face place, but once people know you, they know you.
Yeah. The process, the process from being a complete unknown to people starting to getting to know you is like, if I look back at it now, it's like a magical time for me. When I look back at it, that's why I was just like, I can't replicate that, because I'll never have that time, because like at least in British wrestling, most people know who I am now.
Yeah.
The process of getting there, that's a time that you have to make sure you enjoy and like cherish. I don't feel like we do enough of that because we're so worried about the next one and the next one. And like there's, like I said, there's different levels to that now. So like I'm on the level where I'm looking for my next big opportunity. So I want to enjoy that next wave of like, okay, I need more eyes on me, so I need to keep working harder so that I can enjoy my next little boost, right?
What was that?
You keep trying to go, because the ultimate is, well, until you've main evented WrestleMania 10 times in a row, you've not completed the game.
Exactly. What was that moment for you? Because you mentioned like at North, you mentioned that one that got you all the followers. What was that moment in your mind? The moment where you were like, I'm over now. Like, what was that specific moment in your head where you were like, okay, I finally got over after all this work of trying?
It's when I was confident in knowing that when my music played, I'd get a reaction. Because I think, like...
Do you remember a specific, match? Do you remember a specific, moment where maybe, the crowd popped, the crowd...
Looking back at it, now, there's a bunch of moments, but, I feel like it was something that kind of grew, where all of a sudden, one day, I was just like, oh, wait, my music plays, I get a pop, okay, people must like me, so I should have more confidence in myself and be good. Because I'll say it now, I don't know if this is the case for all the other performers, but until you get to that point, you're always, one of the biggest things that you're anxious about is, will people care when my music plays?
Yeah.
Because the way I look at it, your performance doesn't start when the bell rings. Your performance doesn't even start when you come out of the curtain. Your performance starts when the first sense is activated.
Yeah.
When it comes to wrestling, it's the glass shattering.
Yeah.
It's the CM Punk thing, whatever that is. Do you know, whatever off the top of my head?
Yeah.
Whatever. If you smell, whatever.
Yeah.
So, that's when your performance starts. That's when that's the first indication that people get to know who's coming out.
Yeah.
So then they can respond accordingly, depending on, one, if they like you, or if they hate you, or if they care about you, or if they don't care about you, more importantly.
Yeah. The moment,
right?
Essentially, it's how long it takes someone to know it's you coming out. Right?
Exactly. And there's always that moment, and when you're starting out, you do get that moment. I honestly don't think, I hope other wrestlers feel this way, and I'm not the only one, but Or like, say if you're in a new promotion or in a new town now and no one knows who you are, then you'll always get that. It's good you need that because it keeps you on your toes.
Yeah.
It keeps you working hard. But like, it's weird. So when like I said, first starting out, it was because I had the entrance, right? And I really leaned into my entrance, and I was just like, I've got this unique entrance. I'm pretty sure no one in the country is gonna do it, right? I know how to do it because I've been dancing like this at weddings all my life, like at Asian weddings. It's all we really do, right? So I was just like, let me just put that in there, package it up in a wrestling entrance, and get people to dance with me and interaction and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So then, like, obviously, once those started getting popular and stuff and all that stuff, I was just like, all right, this is cool. Because if I was to be completely honest with myself, I don't think my in-ring wrestling was at that stage or at that level yet. But it was good because I could do a really cool entrance, have people care about me in that sense, and still get the reactions that I needed. So it taught me a lot about the psychological aspect of it.
Yeah.
Not at the time, but now looking back, I'm more aware of the things that I need to do to get a certain reaction than I did before, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, absolutely.
Kind of like breaking the art of wrestling kind of apart a little bit there.
Exactly. No, exactly. I get that.
Yeah, so like as my wrestling started getting better now I genuinely feel like coming back from WWE, my in-ring product's better as well. So now I can package myself up as like a more of a complete package.
Yeah, because everyone learns things in different ways, right? Don't they? Like that's the thing. Like you had like your strengths going into it and the stuff you knew you could do well, and then you learn the other stuff. Whereas for someone else, it might be like they know the technical stuff, and the stuff they learn is the character stuff and how they interact with the audience.
It's on the job training, right? And it's the way I think when I trained with Lance, because I trained with Lance Storm out in Calgary, it's when he put it in a way, and I kind of took that and kind of expanded upon it, where he was just like, look at it as this. What are like the main 4 elements as a professional like whatever they are, you can make your own up, but like you know, body, athleticism, character, promo, whatever it is, and you mark yourself out of 10 in all of that, and like you see where you're at if you're honest with yourself, and like then like each one of those, as they get better, slowly everything starts getting better. So like if one day you've had a really good gym session and you've had a good match, or you've had a really good gym session and you've done some tape study, right? Like you've improved ever so slightly in 2 of those things. Add those 2 up, you've improved.
Yeah.
The office brain banking background comes into play. Do you know what I mean? But like it's kind of, if you look at it like that in a game of like I'm trying to unlock the levels until I've main evented WrestleMania 10 times in a row, which God knows if you'll ever do. You're just non-stop going, because I always look at my wrestling as I genuinely never thought I would ever step foot in a ring. So I look at anything that comes off as a result of it as a bonus.
Yeah.
So now I'm just playing the game because I guess I'm quite lucky that I've got an education and a work experience and all that stuff to fall back on, knowing that like, okay, well, if everything goes to shit, basically.
You got the backup, yeah.
I've got the backup, which means I can put everything into wrestling and like really try and make it a success. So ultimately, to kind of put it in a short way, I'm just trying to extend this career out as much that I don't have to go back into an office. Probably.
No, sure. I think that's the dream, isn't it? That's the thing. You just want to keep doing it as long as you can. I get that.
Either when you got a mortgage in a house. And that, you know what I mean?
Little trickier. It's a little trickier then, admittedly. Yeah. Well, we're going to split the chat up with a couple of features. This is our first one. We talk about North. And this leads on to our first feature, which is called Dishing the Dirt. So I'm going to ask you some questions. Because we've been very nice about it. To be fair, a lot of these are nice. It's not really a lot of dirt dishing. But it's.
I did it out after it. I think it's.
Well, it's very simple. It does what it says on the tin. I'm going to put you some questions, and you let me know which member of the North locker room it most relates to.
Shall I do it in terms of which member? Because that might limit it, and there might be someone else I might relate to. I just say which wrestler it.
Yeah. So like who on the roster? Yeah, who on the North roster most sort of describes that thing?
All right, go on.
So the first one is like, who's always running late?
I'm scared that might be me, to be fair. But you know it's when I came back on the Indies. I had no idea when when are you supposed to turn up to indie shows? Because at WWE you turn up at like well early in the morning. So I was probably struggling with that. But lateness wise, I don't know. To be honest with you, I feel like the question should be, who's super anxious about getting to the show early and who turns up super early to the shows? That'd be a good question, but I'm not going to answer that one.
No? Oh, okay, alright, I'll put that to the next person. I'll change it, I'll put that to the next person. This is one of the two. I think all of these questions are mainly pretty nice, but this is one of the two that I say might get you some actual heat, if the person you say what is watching. So, who has the worst music taste?
It's not anyone at North, in the North locker room, but can it be anyone else?
Yeah, go on, let's say anyone there. Yeah, who have you got in mind?
When we used to travel together, Chris Sharp, you know, the referee.
Yeah.
He'd always play those theme songs, man. You know those like cock and ball songs.
Oh right.
You know what's that? Who's that? Is it Lonely Planet, Lonely Island?
Oh, the Lonely Island. Yeah.
Yeah, you know that type of stuff, and like, what's that other song? My neck, my back. Like, you know that one? Yeah, like weird stuff like that where it's like oddly entertaining, but I'm just like, what is this?
He loves the explicit stuff. Yeah.
I think he did it as a joke. To be fair, he probably just do it to laugh about it because then they are quite funny. But I'm not gonna lie, he put some on and some of them are actually quite good. Like wires and so I'm like, why am I like I'm playing it around the house on the speaker and my wife's like, why are you playing
stuck
this?
in your head? Yeah.
Good beat though, and then a little bit later she's like, to be fair, it is quite good. I'm just like, I told you, I hate Chris because he always plays this, but then it always sticks in your head.
Oh, if you into like that sort of stuff that'll stick in your head, but it's ridiculous and silly. So my partner got me into this band called Ninja Sex Party.
Oh god, I think I've heard of them.
They are like the songs are fucking ridiculous. Like they're good though. Like they're good songs. They're funny songs, but they're just absolutely like why am I listening to this? But after a few songs, you're like, this is actually a really good song. It's really well written.
Fair enough.
The next one on this list is who's the comedian? Who's the funniest in the locker room?
Who's the funniest? There's a lot because it's wrestling.
Yeah, there's a lot of characters in there. Who's the one you can guarantee? Who's the one that you can guarantee will like make you laugh if you need?
Gradwell was always funny. Sam Gradwell's always funny. He always comes out with something bizarre.
Like what? Like just like bizarre, like not jokes.
And
just
you've seen his promos, right?
Yeah, actually, yeah. To be fair, yeah. Actually,
so
no, you've answered that. Yeah,
kind of that, but not. Yeah, kind of that, but not produced. Put it that way.
More off the cuff. Love it.
Yeah. Like, there's a lot of comedians.
Yeah, it's tricky in a wrestling locker room, isn't it? Because there are a lot. There's just a lot of characters.
It is. Like some of the best stuff's like on the road. Some of the best comedy stuff comes out when you're on a 6-hour drive.
Yeah, I imagine so. Yeah. You need something to keep you going, don't you?
Yeah.
The next one is who takes the longest to get ready?
Get ready in terms of
so like you're in the locker room and like say someone's match is coming up and they're just taking ages to get ready. You're waiting for someone. You're like they're just taking ages to get the gear on and get ready.
Oh god, I don't know. Do you know why? Because when I'm backstage and stuff, like I don't look at anyone else getting ready, to be honest with you, unless it's not my match. But then when it's not my match, I'm busy watching the show, like chatting shit to someone in the van.
That's fair enough.
I don't know.
No, that's fair enough. The next
one. Better answers for these.
No, that's fine. It's always just interesting to know like the thought process of someone backstage as well. So I like it either way.
Yeah, that's probably the more interesting part of it.
Well, we talked about this is a good one because we talked about food earlier with the backstage stuff. But like, which wrestler brings the best food to shows? Like whether it's like their pre-show meal or like just snacks and stuff. Is there someone in the back who will always?
Nina Samuels would always bring good baked goods.
That's so like Nina Samuels. I went to Eve last night.
Yeah. She used to bring them to the PC all the time. That was sick.
So we had Nina on the podcast, and I suggested to her that she should sell her like brownies and stuff at merch. And then she started doing it. She did it on Tuesday at Progress, at the Gene Money show, and then she did it yesterday at Eve. And so I got one, and I understand what people are saying now. Like she can bake. It was a good brownie. I tell you what. I was like, I wonder if she's good or if like people just like that's the only brownies there are, so they're like, oh, they must be good.
It is. She's a talented wrestler and a talented baker. So
she's just the best of both, isn't it? Best of both worlds.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's hard because when you're wrestling, you got to watch your diet.
Yeah.
And you've got
No, you can have a treat after. You can have a treat after a match. That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
See, I'm the one that will put. See, I'm putting the brownies away and like not wrestling. So you guys are having it better, really. You're actually burning off the brownies. I'm just standing there watching. I'm not doing anything.
Don't get me started on food. I'm like very emotional relationship with food, man. Honestly. Yeah. I'm gonna watch it, but I'm lucky because I'm gonna naturally quite skinny anyway, so I can eat a little bit more. When you're training and stuff, you can as well. But like, yeah,
you gotta watch it.
I gotta watch it, but I think I've got a decent enough metabolism where I can put food away a lot.
That's always handy.
To be honest, it's weird with me because when I've started actually loosening up on my diet is when I've realised that I've actually been putting on a little bit more size in the gym as well. So I know like there's a lot of wrestlers that are like real tight on the calories and all that stuff, but that's just what's worked for me. Where like, because I've loosened it up a little bit, like has actually helped me like.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Everyone's different, aren't they? Everyone's different, and like that's cool. That's good.
Yeah. There's never everyone. Yeah, absolutely. That's it. You got to go with what works for you. So like, a lot of it I feel like it's got to do with like even the part of the world that you're from can be affected, the body type, all that stuff. That's why certain people from certain parts of the world have specific body types, right? Or different heights and stuff.
Oh, but you get me, like, if you're talking about, like, you know, it's not sort of related, but if you're getting onto food, like, I'm always of the opinion that Middle Eastern food is the best food in the world. Like,
what is your favourite type of Middle Eastern food? Like, which...
The one specific dish that is my favourite is an Iranian dish. It's called kalam polo, which is it's like rice. It's rice with cabbage, and like my mum makes it with like these little like lamb meatballs. And like that is I love that. We have that at Christmas. Like that's like phenomenal to me.
I've since moving to Newcastle and bought my house up here. There's a lot of really good Lebanese places.
Nice.
Huge fan of Lebanese food.
Nice.
It's so good. Yeah. So like big fan. I like Turkish food as well.
Yeah.
I like Turkish.
I always just say anything Turkey eastwards, like Turkey, Middle East, Asia. That's the best food. Anything like Western is like in my mind pretty average. But like anything Turkey onwards towards the east is just absolutely banging.
Yeah, like especially when it comes to spicy as well, I like that the further east you go, the spicier it gets. Because legit, like, so my wife is Bangladeshi, and when it comes to that, like, it's like it literally goes Bangladesh and China, right? So like when it comes to like the Southeast Asia, it's the most east you can get, and their like food is the spiciest. And like when you get to like Turkey or Greece stuff, it's not as spicy.
Yeah.
So as you start getting further in it, it starts getting more.
The spice
level
slowly grows. Yeah.
Yeah, like Iran's not as spicy. You get into Pakistan, there's a bit more spicy in there.
Yeah.
India, you got more vegetables, and they don't have beef there, but then they're spice. And then you get to Bangladesh, and it's just.
And it just blows your mouth off. Yeah.
Properly. Today I did it. Today I had one of them. You know, it was always getting popular in London. You know, Naga chili. Do you know what Naga?
Oh yeah. Not for me. I would never try. I'd never attempt it, but.
It's from Bangladesh. It's Bangladeshi.
I'd never try it just because of the heat level. If I'm honest.
Honestly, mate, yeah, but it's Bangladeshi, so that's what tells you.
Yeah.
It's the thing. I'm pretty sure it is. Anyway, I'm looking up now. Watch me go. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Is it? No, I've heard of it, and I know people that have had it, but I've never had it because I know it's spicy and I know it would blow my mouth off.
Yeah. They had some at my in-laws. So I was at my mother-in-law's now. So she's like a very traditional Bangladeshi woman, and she knows how to make all the traditional dishes.
Oh, that's good. Like that's the authentic is the best, isn't it? When you have it like authentic home cooked, that's when you're like. This is why I don't go out for
Indian food. This is going to be controversial now. Yeah, clip this one and put this out.
All right, go on.
British Indian food, right? Is not Indian food.
It's not. I won't even claim that it is.
British Indian food.
Yeah.
Right. 1 and 2, most Indian restaurants, or a lot of Indian restaurants, are actually Indian run or Indian owned. A lot of them are Pakistani or Bangladeshi owned as well.
Yeah.
It's because the Indian curry is the thing that got popular, and that's the thing that ended up becoming the brand.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it?
Part of it is this will get controversial. A big part of it is because of people's ignorance of the difference between India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and all of that stuff. But that aside, yeah, I don't go out. I don't go out for curries here.
No, why would you?
Go out for curry, yeah.
That's the thing. Why would you? Like, I can't remember who we talking to. I can't remember. We had someone on the podcast, and I'm not going to out them because I can't remember who it is, and I don't want to out the wrong person. But we had someone on the podcast who said they went to Mexico, and like they realized that they didn't like Mexican food, they liked Western, like they liked British Mexican food. You know what I mean? Like
exactly, yeah, exactly, and it's the same with a lot of Chinese food.
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
Like British Chinese food at the local is not the same as actual genuine.
As if you went to China and got like Chinese food.
Yeah, exactly. But like when it comes to like and when it comes to like Pakistani food, like there are specific differences, and like Pakistani food tends to be a little bit more meat based, and like by meat I mean like, not just like chicken, like red meat, like beef, lamb, and all that stuff. They love all that stuff there. And then in India, there's a lot of vegetarians, more vegetarian. You won't find as much beef, but then there's a lot of chicken. That's where a lot of the good chicken comes from and all that stuff. So like, yeah, like if I wanted that, I'd just go to my mum's house.
Yeah, exactly,
If I wanted the Pakistani version, I'd go to my mum's. If I want Bangladeshi extra spicy version, I'd go to my mum's.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Like, so I live in London now. My family still live in Brighton, and like, so if I want Iranian food, I got to order Iranian food. But like Iranian restaurants, or it's all kebab and rice, and sometimes I'll have a couple of extra like proper dishes, and I'll be like, oh shit, that's cool, they've got that, and that's how you know it's a good place if they've got something more than like just what your generic place has. You're like, if they're cooking something authentic that you've grown up with, you're like, okay, like this is a place to order from because they're cooking actual Iranian food, not just your standard like
kebab. You can smell it when you walk in. I don't know. You can. I'm like, if I walk into an Iranian restaurant and it smells like how when my mum cooks Iranian food, I'm like, okay, this is good. It takes you back to your childhood because that's what you're used to the house smelling like.
Exactly.
And then your clothes smell of all of that stuff, and then you have to go outside and all your mates take piss at you because you smell of that, and then they come home and eat your mum's curry and they're like, oh my god, this is amazing. I was just like, well, if you want to smell like that, then this is what you get to come home to.
Well, there you go. See, I can't say I've ever had that experience because Iranian food doesn't stick to the clothing as much. It's not as pungent as.
Nah, it's the masalas and all the chilies and stuff. It spreads. That's why, like, at my mum's house, we got like a proper ventilator put in and a fan and to make sure it all goes. And I'm just like,
otherwise it'll stink for ages.
Yeah,
it lingers, doesn't it? It lingers.
I'll be like, Mum, I'm stinking because of the food that you made me my whole life.
I love that. Well, I love the tangent we went on there. We've got a couple of other like sort of like
it's a wrestling podcast, isn't it?
Well, no, that's the thing, isn't it? Like, I like to think of this as a podcast with wrestlers, but not necessarily a podcast about wrestling as such, because we just go off on weird tangents, and that's what I like about it. But I mean, going back to this is next up. Go off that lovely tangent. We got another. This is the one question there. This is the one question that I think will get you the most heat backstage, depending on who you say. So I'm saying away from the ring. You've left the ring now, or it's before or after a show.
I had enough heat in locker rooms when I first came back.
Who's got the worst dress sense?
Who's got the worst dress sense?
Who arrives in something and you're like, I can't believe you're wearing that.
Gene Mooney always turns up wearing something wacky, doesn't he?
I bet he does.
He always turns up wearing something wacky. I don't like it though, but it is. Yeah, I'll probably say that. Yeah.
I think someone else said Gene as well, so that doesn't surprise me. That like Gene, Gene, what a guy though.
But you know what the coolest thing is? This is like one of those things about wrestling. Like we're in it to stand out, right? You're meant to like stand out and be different and stuff. So like, as much as my previous life and my life before this has conditioned me to be like, no, you wear this for this purpose and this for that. The longer I've been in wrestling, the longer I've been like, I think more people should wear their authentic stuff. Like I turn up to shows now wearing my Pakistani kameezas now.
Yeah, I love that.
One because like they're super comfortable on the road, to be fair. But two, it is because it's that thing where like you want to stand out, you want to be different. Like that's the cool thing about wrestling.
Well, that's the thing. So like in that case, I'm gonna sort of like push this feature to the side for a second because I want to get into that. Because I had that down to ask you because of your Karachi Kid like sort of documentary mini series that you're putting out. And like you mentioned like turning up in that stuff as well. Like it just seems like you're the sort of person that like I feel like it can be very on off with people, but I feel like you come across as someone who's got a lot of pride in like where you've come from and like sticking to that and like again just sort of like not trying to hide the fact that you're from Pakistan, that you grew up with this heritage and like you embrace it because you love it, and that's the thing.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's a few different, and again, it's one of those things where I've reached at this point in my life where I'm comfortable with all of that stuff, and it's because previously in my life I'd always gone in and out and up and down in terms of how much I lean into that and commit to it. It always felt right to me, but like it, like I won't mince it. Like I moved into this country and I got racially abused when I was young. Yeah, because it was Yorkshire in the mid-90s. Like,
Yeah.
that's what it was. It doesn't make me any different to anything else that was going on. I was just in that during that period of time then. There was times of peace during that time. We're in a time of turmoil now. Like, it goes ups and downs with just the way the world works, right?
Yeah.
So, like, I was always on a bit of an identity crisis, and it's weird, like, turning this bloody socio-political, I guess, but like being Asian, there's a big Asian population that lives here who have grown up from that generation where it's just like there is a bit of an identity crisis as well. Like, I feel British, but I don't feel British, if that makes sense.
No, I get it. Yeah.
Because of being made to feel like an outsider because of all of that stuff that's happened. And you take that identity crisis into your adult life to the point where, like, and you know, I'm comfortable to say this now, like, even I would make a lot of self-deprecating jokes about that stuff because it's funny and it's low-hanging fruit and it gets people to like you, because when I first moved here, no one liked me because of... So then what you end up doing is you end up doing the same thing without realizing it, and it's just an immaturity. It's nothing else. It's just because you don't know how to deal with it yet.
Yeah.
Because you reach that level of maturity to be like, oh, okay, this is a better way of doing it. So, like, you know, I'd always had that, you know, identity crisis, so to speak. It's until you go through a difficult time in your life, or it's until you make a big change, like say for example, like getting married, you get a lot more mature, or you're in those situations where you're forced to grow up and become yourself, right? So during that process is what made me be more secure in the fact that, well, like, yeah, like, I think it's cool to be a British Asian wrestler. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's cool for me to lean into that part of the thing that I'm really passionate about. Like, I'm passionate about being from Karachi, Pakistan, as passionate as I am about being from Yorkshire.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And in today's wrestling world, like, you don't have to be a thing. It's like, well, yeah, I'm cool to be that. I'm cool to be this. That happens to be part of my identity. And also, like, yeah, like, I'm a good wrestler, come watch me. And I just so happen to be from these places.
Yeah.
Like, that's my background. And a big part of the reason of, like, why it was cool making that little documentary that I did was telling that story of, like, well, like, you can be from anywhere and you can achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve, because this is the true story of what's actually happened with me.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, it's cool because then if people watch that and they can be like, all right, well, like, I'm going down this route where I'm doing something that I don't really necessarily want to do, and I can change. Like I did, like, I was working in banking and finance, and that's where I was set. And it was good money as well. It was in central London. So, like, it was great. But then, like, I quote unquote threw it away to chase a dream, and it worked out for me. And, like, there's the ups and downs that come with it. But, like, you know, we're still on the journey. What was the question?
No, that was it. Like, I think you answered it perfectly. But I was going to say, like, moving on to that, like, did you ever feel any, like, any sort of worry trying to get into wrestling, in the way that we all know how very easily someone from the Middle East can get stereotyped as a character into wrestling?
Oh, 100%. It's because it's what we've been... Sorry.
No, I was going to say, was there ever that worry in your mind wanting to go into wrestling, but being like, if I get into wrestling, am I going to be typecast as this type of character?
So personally, I was quite lucky that I got into wrestling at more of an advanced stage, because I had a little bit of life experience, and I'd experienced, like, at that. But by the time I got into wrestling, I'd been to uni, got a university degree, worked since I was 16, lived in America for a year, lived in London for nearly 2 years. You know what I mean? I had a little bit of life experience, and, like, I always like traveling as well, because that's how I've learned a lot of things in my life, is just some traveling as well. So it was that thing where, like, I was mature enough to be like, yeah, if that ever got offered to me, like, I'd say no to it, or I wouldn't want to do it and stuff. Like, when I was in Canada, I worked as a heel when I first started out. I was like, there was this Lebanese wrestler, and I played the part of, like, his cheeky little shit little brother. Do you know what I mean? And I was like, all right, that's fair enough. Like, that's cool. I bet to be a heel. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, like, weird with wrestling themes and stuff. I always really thought Muhammad Hassan's theme was really cool, because it has got, like, a cool little beat to it. Once the Arabic stuff gets out of the way, it's got a cool little beat to it. So then I use that as my theme, because I was just like, I don't get a chance to do this. Let's do it. I'm a heel. It's fun. I'll rock it. So like the because because the character that I came up with, in my opinion, was quite strong, and it was a strong babyface character. I was just like, well, it'd be cool to have like a babyface from that part of the world who's a strong babyface. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Who's a genuine babyface, because we don't see a lot of that in wrestling.
Yeah.
So I was just like, all right, well, this is a cool gimmick that I'm comfortable doing. I can make it good, and I can be a good babyface wrestler and learn how to be a good babyface wrestler through the training and experience and on-the-job stuff. So I was lucky that the thing that managed to get me over first was that thing. So then I just ran with that. So I've never really had to worry about it.
Yeah.
You know, sometime down the line, obviously, naturally, I would love to work as a heel, but it's something that I would like to happen naturally instead of it being like, oh, let's make him that type of a heel. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't think you would nowadays anyway. I think that would just be like, I don't think you'd get that now. I don't think people can.
It can happen in wrestling, innit?
It can. I can't believe anyone would get away.
There's less chance of it happening. I would never say never, you know.
No, you can't in wrestling, can you? You can't.
You can't, but there's less chances of it. So yeah, like with that said, it's always just kept me in good stead, and like, it's like I said, I got signed as my character and my gimmick was starting to settle in.
Yeah.
So it's cool because now that I'm back on the scene, I've been gone for a while, so it's fresh. So now it's been really cool to hear it when people say, oh, it's cool that that entrance is back on the scene again. Like, it's cool to have you, and like, you're having good matches and this and that. So it's kind of nice because I still think there's more legs to this character, and like by telling my story and doing all this stuff, I want to add a little bit of depth to it now as well, because I'm just like, every character has a progression, right? So it's just like, so far I've been known as like happy-go-lucky cool, and that's cool, and I love it, and it's great because I want that to be the basis of who I am, is an underdog babyface who's like happy-go-lucky and put smiles on people's faces. WWE line, learn something in the PR meetings, innit? But that's, I mean, it's true though, isn't it, as well?
No, that's the thing. But like, that's the thing, you say that sort of stuff, and like that, like, just from watching it so far and like knowing about you anyway in like your career, like, I think it's fair to say from my point of view, like, you seem like you're quite comfortable being a bit of a risk taker. Again, like, going out, like, taking the opportunities you've taken when you've taken them, like, you know, working, like you say, working in London, moving to Calgary, going to America, and like coming back here. It seems like you're quite comfortable taking that plunge if you feel it's going to get you where you want to be in life.
Yeah, so I think a big part of that comes from, so the way I look at it, or like, I guess what I've learned from that process is, if you've got a good work ethic, the better your work ethic, the more chances you can take risk-wise.
Yeah.
Because the thing that I've always kept myself and always prided myself, and I guess I don't know where it's come from, I suppose, like, I guess it's come from a place of really, like, being more goal-oriented or really wanting it, or genuinely, if I was to be honest with you, I actually think it's something wrong with me because I need to be go all the time. And now it's like an on switch and an off switch. That's why there was times at the back end before we got released, I was getting really frustrated because I'm just like, all right, are we coming? Are we going? Are we coming? Are we, in terms of, right, I want to be doing this every single week. I want to be doing this consistently. And like, you know, I'm more than happy to say that now because it was a genuine feeling that I felt. And like, it's a natural feeling because you're going to go through these ups and downs in your career and you're going to learn from them.
Yeah.
And I genuinely think now, looking back, periods like that have made me better now, because I don't think I would have appreciated wrestling week in, week out on the indies now as much had I not had it taken away to an extent, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds quite taking it away, like, not in, I don't mean it in that way, but I mean it just wasn't there.
Yeah.
So all of those things that I never appreciated before, because when it was before, like, I ended up getting really busy really quick, and then like loads of people got to know who I was. It happened so fast. Like I said, it was a whirlwind. But at that time, I never got a chance, and then I got signed straight away, so I never got a chance to like enjoy those moments. It's when those moments went away and I started getting back out on the road, is when I was like on the road through a nice drive going down to Target Wrestling in Carlisle, and I was just like, oh, this is what indie wrestling is. You end up driving through these nice little areas, or like, you know, you might have hit a little bit of the Lake District on the way down south and stuff like that. Like,
classic, like, don't know what you got till it's gone kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, like, my wrestling. So I'm on NGW on Saturday, right? The show's going to be at 7, but my show starts from the moment that I wake up, that I'm getting ready, until I get in the car, because it's an experience. I like to look at it as a whole day experience.
Yeah.
Because then I'll get what I want to get out of it.
Yeah.
In terms of like, we always, this is another day of living your dream. Yeah, like wrestling gets up and down. As a wrestler, you're going to deal with injuries, you're going to deal with ups and downs, not getting booked anywhere, complaining, thinking that, I should be booked everywhere because I'm so over now, but why is people not noticing me? And all of these million things that go on in your head. But like, ultimately we forget, like, that's one day. If you're on a show, that's one day of you living the dream that, let's be honest, none of us thought that we were ever going to live, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, I always put it this way: the worst days in wrestling will always be a million times better than the best day that I might have had in banking.
Yeah.
I.e., I don't know, that's payday after 6 weeks, so a big fat check's come into your account, you get put over in the work meeting, and you've done a really cool piece of work, and you get to leave early to go home and like whatever, right?
Yeah.
That is still not as good as turning up to a show and having a shit match.
Yeah. Or being stuck in traffic, getting to the show or something.
Whatever. Yeah, whatever. Anything that I'll always say, and I never forget that, is because I saw what it was like working in finance, seeing my life go in that direction, and be like, shit, if I don't do anything about this now, then I'll be too old, and I don't want to be 50 years old, and be like, when I was 25, I should have really gone to that school and taken that book.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No.
So when you think about it that way, especially when you've been through that, that's why I mentioned, like, when you go through those difficult times, it's what makes you who you are, kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. No, well said. We got another fun like feature here on the show, like as we're sort of like wrapping up. And again, it's getting to know a bit more about you. It's called Anatomy of a Pro Wrestler. And this is about you now. This isn't about Amir Jordan now. This is about you as a shoot.
Yeah.
So I'll ask you some questions again, and you let me know what comes to mind.
Go on.
So the first one is the perfect one for a pro wrestler. Is what's your favorite post pinfall pig out?
Post pinfall pig out.
Yeah, what'd you like after a show?
Oh my God.
And we're not talking about, because everyone says McDonald's because that's all that's open, but we're not talking about what's open. We're talking about if you got the choice, what would you have? Like, what's your favorite thing to have?
All right. Okay. So, if it was today, let's take a real world example. So, if I was to do a show in Newcastle, come home, there's a place in Newcastle called Burger Drop.
Nice.
They do smash burgers.
Yeah, love a smash burger.
And you can get like doubles and triples and what. So I'd get one of them with the cheese. They do the one with the pickle and the extra spices and put jalapenos in it. Yeah. I know them now as well, so they put extra spicy in it for me.
Nice.
With the skin on fries. With the peri salt.
Love it.
The Oreo milkshake.
Oh.
They do the thick one with the chunky Oreo pieces inside.
Oh, you're making me hungry now. This is making me too hungry.
Yeah. And they do and then the chicken tenders, they do these crispy chicken tenders.
Oh, nice.
I'd wipe it clean, bro. I'd wipe it clean. If there wasn't the milkshake, replace that with Belgian chocolate Häagen-Dazs, $4.50
Oh, mate. Okay, yeah, I'm just in the mood for all I want is a burger now, like a proper greasy
burger with the cheese in it.
Smash burgers in it. I don't like big burgers. I don't like when you go to like a pub and they serve you like a proper hench burger. It's got to be a smash burger for me.
Because it's like all compacted in it.
Yeah, exactly.
And like you can just bite into it.
And it seems a lot more manageable. It seems like a lot more manageable. It seems like you can have a triple burger and it still will be like the same as if you just had a hench burger at the pub or something.
Except you feel like shit after still because you still had that amount of density of food. It's just not spread out.
It's normally worth it though, isn't it? It's normally worth it.
Yeah, well, I mean, that came off the top of my head.
I love it. No, I love it. I love it. Well, see, this could really be the answer to the next one because it's another food-based one. It's the classic, like, what would your death row meal be? What would your last meal be?
All right, I'll go for something different then, just for the thing. What last meal ever?
Yeah, like you're on death row, you know, you get
food-based questions. We talked a lot about food. I like.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I like it as well. If I'm honest, food seems to be the main thing that I talk about with people on this. It seems to just mainly be a food podcast.
I'm not complaining at all. You found the right person for that. To be honest with you, this is sentimental now. If it was my last meal ever, and if my mum was still alive, then she is still alive. What am I saying? She's alive. She's down. I hope so. Let me call her.
We're talking in the future. We're talking in like, you know.
Anything that my mum.
Yeah, I like that. I'd probably go.
My last meal, it'd be like anything that my mum made, isn't it?
I'd probably go the same. I don't know. So, do you ever like, again, off on a tangent? Do you ever like corrupt your mum's cooking? So, like, again, we have that cabbage rice dish with Christmas dinner. We have it with Christmas dinner, and I cover it in gravy. And I know that's sacrilege. Any Iranians here would hate me for saying it, but it's genuinely incredible. Like, do you ever do that with like?
Yeah. So, bro, I've got the best one. So, this is one you can take. This is for everyone listening. Yorkshire pudding.
No.
Yeah, with dal. You know what dal?
Oh, that sounds. Yeah, right. I love dal.
Personally, for me, I go for the spicy lentil. That's what whatever. Don't put too much because the Yorkshire will get soggy.
Smart.
So you don't want to put in too much. I've learned this. If you drown it, then it'll all get soggy. It's not fun.
Yeah.
But dal with the Yorkshire is one of the best like cross culture mixes.
I need to try. Yeah, I'm gonna try that. I'll let you know how it is when I try it. I need to try that because I love dal. I love Yorkshire pudding, so that'll be
even better. I normally get the cheap Tesco own brand Yorkshires, which are the thin ones. But if you get the Aunt Bessie's and you're the fat ones,
the
proper fat ones with that layers, the lattice inside. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I need to try that. I'll let you know when I try that and like how it is because that sounds incredible. That sounds amazing.
It's probably more.
The next one on this list is the song that gets me the most hyped.
Oh, there's so many. Wrestling song. There's all so many wrestling songs. My musical choices are based off wrestling pay-per-view music from the mid-2000s.
Yeah. That's the best way to go, though, isn't it? That's when the best music was.
In it. Click, click, boom, Saliva or something.
Love it.
I don't know. I was just throwing that out. What was the question again?
It's just the song that gets you the most hyped.
Oh, there's so many of them. Remember POD, Boom?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Just high energy the whole time. Stuff like that.
Love it. The next one is the movie that...
To be honest with you, music-wise, if it's that, I do listen to a lot of... there's a big rock scene in Pakistan. I listen to a lot of Pakistani rock music.
Really?
Sorry, what?
No, I'm a rock man myself. That's where my like music tastes like. I'm a rock and metal man myself. So like.
Yeah, so me too. So like that's what I like when it comes to English music. And then when I lived in Pakistan, I started discovering that scene. Like, you say like punk rock is like the genesis of punk rock is like DIY, do it yourself.
Yeah.
Like, this is not me like saying anything bad about anywhere else, but like, it's easy to be DIY punk rock when you're living in England.
Oh.
It's a million times harder to be DIY punk rock in a country where they're trying to ban music and
mate, like Iran as well. Like I'm always like you hear like an Iranian rock band, Iranian metal band, and they're doing it like underground in their basement and like can barely get their music out there because the government. And you're like, that's punk rock. That's fucking cool as shit.
That's punk rock for real.
Like,
you know what I mean?
Like you're literally risking your life to make music, and that's fucking cool as shit.
Exactly, and so when it comes to like that type, I do get hyped up with a lot of like Pakistani music.
Nice, I love that.
There's a different soul to it. There's a different
well, like, is it again? It's different, like, because music comes from life experience, right? It's a different life experience, like.
Yeah.
And that's what it is, and that's what fuels it. Brilliant. The next one is the movie that I'd show the locker room. So I always say like it doesn't have to be your favorite film, but like the film you think everyone should see.
If it was like, oh god. You can't die and have not watched Shawshank Redemption, innit?
Banging film. Great film. Like, I like...
Because I'm just like, you'd probably learn something from that too.
Oh, it's a great story. Like, in terms of the message it sends. Like...
Do you know what I mean?
It is the ultimate, like, never lose faith story, really, isn't it?
Yeah, like, exactly. And like, I remember when I watched that, downloaded it on WinMX when I was 15 off the thing. You remember back in the day? Thing, and I was like, oh... I watched it because I was like, oh, why is this movie number 2 on IMDb? Like, what the hell? It was I think it's number 1 now.
I think it is number 1.
Yeah, let me try it. This was way back when I was like, oh, let me download it. Left the computer on all night. It was there in the morning, watched it. And I was just like, oh, this is a really cool movie. But the older that I got and the more I watched it, like if I watched it now, I'd take away something different from it.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, isn't it? The thing I
watch at different stages in your life.
Yeah. Because that's the thing, I watch it now, and the thing I take from it is the fact, like you say, is like, it's like that, like, never give up, or like it's never too late attitude, because like he spends like, what is it, like 10-15 years digging that tunnel or something, Like, and then he gets out, and it's still like that's the payoff, right? He's waited that long to do it, and it's been worth it for that long.
It's like the ultimate wrestling payoff storyline.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But like, I mean, it is actually, to be fair. It's the biggest pop is when he's like that in the rain, isn't it?
No. The biggest pop is the reveal. The biggest pop is where the guard puts his hand in the poster and rips it off and sees it. That's the reveal. That's the pop there.
Yeah, that's the pop. The famous scene. I got to because the famous scene is that where he's sat like in the rain like this, and yeah, when the music starts and he like grabs the thing off.
That's it. That's the pop.
Like wrestling should be more like
Mate,
that.
you put that on at the on the the big screen at a wrestling show. That's when the crowd would go mental. That's
yeah. Probably like it's one of those ones that's probably what makes it timeless is you learn more from it, especially about keeping faith and all that stuff, because as we get older you run into more barriers, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. It's like one of those movies where you actually learn a lot from it, because like it is quite like a never lose hope, because the older you get, the more chances there are of losing hope and faith in a lot of things, especially in the world that we live in today.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. No, exactly. Love it. Great choice. The next one's a big throwback because it's your first job.
Tesco.
Classic. The classic.
I got my national insurance number, and I think I was always very keen to I had quite a sheltered upbringing. But then, I always wanted to get out, but my upbringing was quite strict and traditional.
Sure.
But then you're being strict and traditional with someone that just wants to get out, and that's what they really want to do. The first opportunity that I got to do that was when I was 16, when I could go out and get a job. Because then, I get to go out in the world. Do you know what I mean?
Like that sense of freedom, yeah.
Yeah, I ended up staying in that job from 16 all the way till going to America after uni. So I was there for 6.5 years. I worked there from 16 till 22, and legit, I learned so much. Because I worked tills, I worked night shift, I worked for a few years in there before, near the end, I worked on trolleys outside. That was fun. You just dust about, as long as you get the trolleys in, just dust about.
Yeah.
I did it all there, so it was great because it gave me a very grounded experience. When you work at Tesco in Batley, West Yorkshire, you see you'll see everything. Do you know
every type of person, yeah.
Exactly, and the exposure to that you do learn. We underestimate these experiences that it does.
It shapes you, doesn't it? Yeah. Especially like you say, especially if you come from that sort of quite sheltered upbringing, it gives you that first taste of what the real world is like, and I think it's important to have that at a younger age.
Looking back now, I was 16. I was so sheltered that I was so nervous to be in the staff room that I used to walk to the Netto down the road, get some sweets, and eat them on the way back.
Yeah.
It'd be enough time for me to go get some food, and then I wouldn't have to go sit in the staff room in front of everyone.
Yeah.
That's how little about the real world that I knew.
No, I relate to that. Because again, I love my upbringing. I big up my parents hugely for the upbringing they gave me. I look back on it now as I was very protected. I didn't until I was probably 18, 19, I didn't have a huge amount of experience in the real world. And so then when adversity hits you the first few times, you're like, oh shit, this is the end of the world. And I think the younger you are when you have that first real world experience, the better, because that's what can shape you.
Oh, 100%. And even because the thing is, even despite that, when you get older, you're still going to have to deal with a bunch of shit that you've never dealt with. So the earlier you can get those ones out of the way,
the better you can deal with it later.
Yeah, because you're going to have to.
Exactly.
You're gonna have to, next week, you'll have to deal with something. I will. We all will. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, I like it. The next one gets a little deep because it's my greatest fear.
Greatest fear. Oh, God. I used to be a lot more scared of a bunch of stuff. There was probably a time about 1.5 years ago where I felt like I was getting scared of everything. I think probably a lot deeper than.
No, to be fair, I think pandemic does that to you, doesn't it? It gives you that heightened anxiety on everything.
Do you know what it is with the fear thing? I always find it like this: when things are going to plan, I feel like I'm not scared of anything. When things go well, it's when I start getting a lot of those fears when things don't go too well. I guess it's more situational.
No, I get that.
If I was to say what if I'm really scared, I guess I'm lucky. There's nothing day to day that I'm scared of dogs. Shit, there you go. That's a famous one that everyone knows about. Yeah. All right. There you go. That's the fear, and it's one that I'm actually working towards. There's a genuine story behind it. This when we first moved to England, like I said, like I had to deal with a lot of shit, and like there was a lady that clearly didn't like the fact that this Pakistani family had moved into the street. It was very obvious, and she'd always let a dog off on me.
Fucking hell.
And the dog would always chase me around.
Mate.
Until I said something to my parents, and then they made it stop.
Yeah.
But ever since then, I've been super scared of dogs.
I get that. Yeah, that's fucking awful. Like, I understand how that would give you a fear.
On top of that, the worst thing is when we moved to Pakistan. In Pakistan, you get wild dogs out.
Oh, yeah.
So I remember this one time I was late. I'll never forget it. It was in Pakistan. I was running late for Friday prayers. Right? So I got out the house and I pegged it. But there was a wild dog underneath the car outside our house. And it seen me run. And it's obviously, the dog probably panicked or whatever. It started coming at me. And I'll never forget how scared I was at that point.
Yeah.
Like, they're not, those dogs, they wouldn't hurt you. Actually, I don't even know if they would or not, to be fair.
It's like you don't know, but like they're reacting on your reaction, right? They're reacting on what you're doing.
So like, I've always had that fear. Living in a country like England, I like going for walks as well. So like, I encounter many dogs on the walk.
Tough to avoid, yeah. Tough to avoid them.
Yeah, but my wife is a massive dog lover. But we can't get a dog, obviously. But then it's good because she's helped me start working with my fear of dogs. I'm still very afraid. Like, I couldn't, like, hold the dog right now. But, like, I'm getting better at, like, walking past them and not having to, like, completely go the other way. Like, I'm not, like, before, it was quite embarrassing before, but, like, I'm not embarrassed by it now. Like, it is what it is. Like, I'm afraid of dogs. It's funny. I can see the funny side of it as well. But, like, it's something that I genuinely, like, look at it as, like, a goal in my life, even if it takes the rest of my life to get there. But, like, it's a little side project that I've got going where I'm just like, all right, just keep slowly getting better at this.
I love that. That's great. I love that. Good luck to you. That's amazing.
I'm so scared. Like, genuinely, because people always look at it as and they think that I hate dogs. And, like, I don't. Like, I genuinely actually really love animals. And, like, I just want them to live their happy dog lives. Yeah. Over there.
Yeah, just a little further away from me, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I love that. I love that. Good luck to you, mate. That's cool. I love that.
I'm working on it. I'm getting there.
Nice. Well,
everyone's taking this out of me now, isn't it?
Well, no, it's weird that we talk about dogs because the next one on the list is your favourite animal.
Oh, my favourite animal. Oh, when I was a kid, I like this one. I guess this one. So when we first moved to England, I was in nursery, and in that nursery we had this little cage. And this is probably why, like, I got comfortable with my first animal, probably because they were caged. But we had these little white rabbits.
Nice.
And like, I'll never forget that. Like, I'm not a massive animal lover. Do you know what I mean? Like, near my mum's house in Yorkshire, it's like near where the Yorkshire Dale starts, and there's always sheep there and stuff. I love like seeing the sheep do their thing, and they always look at you, and it's funny and stuff. Like, I like doing that. But like, if I was to say something like that, my first animal love, I guess, was like that little rabbit that I think that I got comfortable actually. Like, I'm very uncomfortable even touching animals, not just dogs, but and like I'm scared of cats too because of whatever that thing is. Anything that's not a human being that's got eyes and a mouth. Yeah, it's like they don't have facial expressions in it, so you don't know. Yeah,
you don't know how they're feeling. You
know
can't
that sounds really stupid, but like, how do you know what they're thinking? Because you can't see. Like, if they smile at you and you know it's all good, then it's fine. But dogs don't smile. You know, animals don't smile, do they?
Yeah, it's just the wide mouth, and you're like, is that good or is it bad?
I don't know. Like, it's like whatever. Like, yeah, but yeah, I would probably say like little rabbits are cute, innit?
Nice. Yeah, they are. I like that. The next one is my favorite. It's a wrestling question. It's my favorite match stipulation. Ooh. So, like, it can be anything. Like, a singles match can count as a stipulation for this, because we've had a couple of people ask about what counts as a stipulation. Like, literally any kind of match is a stipulation. So
I don't understand. Singles is cool. There's so many in there.
There's
to watch or to wrestle in.
Either, whatever you want.
Alright, okay, so to watch ladder match.
Nice.
Only because, like, some of the best athletic stuff happens in ladder match, just because of the or like TLC or anything like that, because of the variety of things that you can do. It's like a playground, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's it's like a hardcore match where there's only do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. No, it's different with a hardcore match, isn't it? It's a bit more about the brutality of it rather than like the nuance of like putting someone through a ladder or jumping off it or like doing a flip.
Like the Edge and Jeff Hardy in it. Come on, that was in the ladder match.
Yeah.
So, like, Jeff Hardy doing the swanton of it. I like Jeff Hardy, I guess.
Who doesn't? Jeff is great. Jeff's a great one.
Or Shelton Benjamin and all his little
Yeah,
moments.
yeah, the run up the ladder, yeah.
When Jeff Hardy Jeff Hardy again, the Swanton to Edge.
Yeah.
He broke the table in half.
So many good ones.
Yeah. Jeff Hardy was cool, wasn't he?
Jeff Hardy is cool. Jeff Hardy's a great guy. Like he's got his issues and like wish him best with them, but like as a wrestler, he's so much fun to watch.
Yeah. So to watch probably a ladder match, probably to do, I've always enjoyed tag team wrestling.
Nice.
I always enjoy tag team wrestling because there's enough creative freedom there because there's 4 people. And like you get into like go out there. It's like the most basic version of like my team versus your team, innit?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I've had like fun tag team partners in the past as well.
Nice.
And like it's kind of nice to like be there working with someone else because it's kind of interesting as well because like you're both on your individual journeys, but like you're part of a tag team and like the other person's relying on you and like you might fuck up or they might fuck or like whatever. Like it's just I found it fun being a tag team wrestler. I look at myself as a singles wrestler because you know the whole entrance and presentation, all that stuff. Nothing like a singles match, to be fair, because it's all on you. Then I guess tag team. I like. I don't know. Singles is now you got me thinking.
Yeah.
Like,
it's a tricky one, isn't it? I like to get people thinking on this. That's the point.
The singles one is good because like if you ever get booked in a singles match versus someone that you've got good chemistry with, instantly you just know that like it's just gonna be exciting.
Yeah.
It's just you and that other person creating it, and like you live and die by your own sword.
Yeah.
And it's like there's no other gimmicks to help you out. It's just the wrestling, so your wrestling has to speak for itself.
Yeah. No, I love that.
So the more I said tag team wrestling, I'm talking.
The more it goes in your mind. You're like, oh, maybe it is singles.
It is, yeah. A basic singles one-on-one match, babyface and a heel.
Nice.
Easy story to tell.
Classic.
Because then you can just live the dream.
Yeah, it's just wrestling at its purest, isn't it? That's just like the pure form of it, wrestling.
Like he gets booed when he comes, like whoever it is, and then you get cheered, and then you like. And then you just
tell a story, and it's great. Like it's the purest form of wrestling, isn't it?
You're in the process. You're in there, and you're just like, you know what the best of it is when you're like completely comfortable. And I don't know if anyone else does this, but sometimes you are in there. And you're just like, I am currently going through the process of living the dream that I never thought I would. I got that a little bit at 1PW the other week, and I was just like, shit, this is pretty cool. Huh? I think I was stood outside waiting for the tag.
Nice, I love that.
But it's nice. Like everyone should try and get into those moments where it's just like.
You can take yourself out of it and be like, appreciate what you have with it.
It comes with experience. Definitely, because there was no way I was doing anything like that a few years ago.
Sure.
I wasn't even thinking about that because I was too worried about, hopefully my shoulders don't pop out. I hope I don't look shit to so-and-so on TV. I hope this move hits and all that. And it's just like, when we all just relax and enjoy it, it's a lot more.
Yeah, for sure.
There's bigger worries in life, innit?
Yeah, exactly. The next one is my favourite place in the world.
Pakistan.
Nice. Love it.
Do you know why? It's because of how wacky the place is.
Yeah.
It's not even my favorite place in terms of like, if it was my favorite place, I'd probably say something like California because it's one of the most amazing. Do you know what I mean? But like, it's probably Pakistan because I always went there when I was a kid every summer, and like, obviously the most time I spent in the UK. Being part of like, you know, Western society, so to speak, the crazier I found that if I get on this 7-hour flight and go to this other part of the world, everything is completely different.
Yeah.
It doesn't work, the electricity goes out, all that stuff. But like, I like to like embrace that aspect of it because it's a part of me. So like, obviously, like I am British, I've spent most of my, I'm based here, I live here, but like, it probably is that part of the world, and there's loads of it. Like, I've been doing a lot of research on like YouTube, watching a lot of videos and stuff, and like, the northern areas where Mount Everest and K2 and all the big mountain ranges are, that's in the north of Pakistan. It's like one of the few areas of like untouched beauty. Because tourism, over the last 20 years, you weren't going to get a massive tourist boost to Pakistan because of everything that's happened, right? But like, if you actually like see it for what it is, that just means that it's been untouched. Because there's not that many places now. Like, you go to places in America and stuff, like, it's like littered with like, the stuff for the tourists, right?
Yeah.
And I love that, don't get me wrong, I love it. Of course, the more tourists go, the more they're gonna stuff there. But then all of these out of the way places that like no one knows about and
Yeah.
stuff. And it's the fact that I can go there whenever I want and my family's there and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I've barely explored it. Because we'd always go to Karachi where our family was. I know that place, but like I want to explore the rest of it as well.
Nice.
I just get like a feeling of like there's a different type of feeling.
Yeah.
There's a different type of feeling like being whenever I go back home to Yorkshire, and it's a different type of feeling when I go to Pakistan. But because I don't go there as often, I'd probably say yeah.
Nice. I love it. I love that. And the final one then, you might have already mentioned it because it's my dream holiday destination.
Cali. No, dream holiday destination. Been to a few. I would probably say, if I put it this way, if I take it as a place where I want to go the most right now, is probably California.
Nice.
I did when I was living in America, I did the internship in America, New York. New York's one of my favorite places. But we did a road trip down the West Coast. Went all the way from like San Francisco, drove all the way down to San Diego, and we stopped off in between, me and like a few of my mates and stuff. It was the most amazing trip just because it was just, I love like natural beauty, especially like by the water.
Yeah.
And the blue of the Pacific is like different. We don't get to see that here as such.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was pretty amazing. I want to try and like do a little road trip with my wife there if we can afford it at some point. That would be cool.
Love it.
I remember when we were in Canada, one of the early wrestling road trips I did was from Calgary to this place in British Columbia, and it was about a 10-hour drive through a time zone even.
Nice.
But it was through the Rocky Mountains.
Beautiful.
Like, I've got to come back here one day.
Yeah.
It's so vast. And like, I was never seen anything like that. And I was just like, I'd love to go there on a holiday.
Yeah.
But that was like that was probably my first or second ever wrestling road trip, and it was that.
I love that. That's when you're like holy shit, you're like, you're in it early. That's like, this is a cool as fuck.
Because I really like traveling too, and I'm just like, bloody hell, I'm getting like, it almost feels like I'm getting like a free trip out of it.
Yeah. It's like almost a mini holiday.
I look at it that way, yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
Until you got to drive down to London on the M1, that's pretty boring.
That is hell, yeah, that is hell.
Trip about driving straight down the M1, that's pretty boring.
No, I love that. That. Brilliant. Well, we're just wrapping up. I've got a couple of things I just want to ask you to finish up. The first is sort of going back to what we were talking about earlier in terms of like storylines and wrestlers that you sort of like want to see progress. Because we mentioned it in WWE and growing up like that. But do you have a wrestler now, like on the indie scene, that you look at and you have like sort of big images in your mind of like where you like how you'd like to see them book and what you'd like to see them do? Like, so as an example, in my mind, the one that I'm super invested in at the minute is Casey Owens, and like, she's got this, like, I hope it's like a running storyline in Eve. I hope that's what they're doing with her. But, like, I've got this idea in my mind of where this should be going, what they're doing with her, and where I want it to go. And so I'm super invested in every match she has at Eve at the minute. Is there a wrestler like that for you where you're like, that sort of career progression in a certain promotion or a certain place where you're, like, really invested in someone?
You know, it's funny, because I was just, whilst you were saying it and describing it, I was rocking my head, and I was like, who, and then I saw your t-shirt.
Rio is,
you know what I mean?
Unreal.
And I was just like, especially after like the recent publicity that she's got on.
Yeah, I've spoken to her about that, and like, again, any publicity is good publicity, isn't it? In a certain point, but
at the end of the day, we're in the business of grabbing people's attention.
Yeah.
Right. And if you can do that and not die, then
all the better. All the better.
Because, like, I don't know, like, my shoulder dislocated through a baseball slide through someone's legs. It can, like, fair play to you, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Like, I'm very interested to see the career progression from, and she's cool as well, like, I meet her at shows all the time, it's pretty cool, but, like, it's just, I feel like for the longest time in British wrestling, nothing like that happened.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where, like, everyone's talking about it, and I'm just like, oh, that's pretty cool.
No,
like, it's just like a divided opinion. It is, but isn't that what wrestling is? Isn't that the fun of wrestling? The controversial thing, like that's what made John Cena such an intriguing character, didn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Like just building it in that way.
Again, like there's probably 15 more that I could name, but it's just funny. As I was going through my head, I saw it and I was just like, "That's cool."
Oh mate, I love representing Rio. Like she's just absolutely phenomenal. Like even without the like you know the publicity that you say like she's had recently, like just even before that, she just had a phenomenal year. Like, she's just done incredibly.
Exactly, and it is that thing. It's like when you're in wrestling, you realize like there's loads of wrestlers who are sick that haven't had that light shine on them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like it's like, however it happens, you need someone to shine a light on you. Like it's like I always hate it's like I'd hate to be personally, it's just my thing. I'd hate to be one of those wrestlers that's like, oh, he's the best kept secret.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, well, yeah, it's nice for a little bit. Oh, he's underrated, one of the most underrated performers. Because then it's just like, all right, like, I want people to know in it, because we're in the business of exposure. And like, if someone good can get exposure in that way, that's why I thought it was cool, more so than what it was. I was just like, all right, this is really cool exposure for her, so I'm interested to see where that takes her.
Exactly. Exactly. No,
and like, yeah, like we're all like at the end of the day, like we're all in the business of trying to capture people's attention. When you're in promo class, that's the third. Like you've got to try and get people's attention. So like, I'm like, yeah, everyone likes attention. Like I feel like we're kind of hired to shy away from it. Like everyone likes attention.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. That's what it's all about, isn't it? You're all about grabbing those headlines.
And you're in the business of trying to get attention. So it's just like, well, yeah. Like we should be doing the things that are trying to get us attention, then really within the moral bounds of human decency.
Exactly. No, exactly. Well, that's what brings us to a close. We have one. We've mentioned other podcasts a lot during this podcast, and the one I bring up here at the end is because I've sort of stolen their idea. Is do you know the Diary of a CEO podcast?
Yeah.
So I love his idea at the end where he poses a question to the guest that the previous person has asked. And so I sort of nicked that, because I feel like he won't mind, because I feel like we fly under the radar enough as a podcast for him to not notice. But I think it's a great segment. And so the question we've got for you, that I can't tell you who has asked it, but it's for you to answer.
Is that part of the rule?
Yeah, you're not allowed to know. I can tell you off screen, I'll tell you afterwards if you want. But you're not allowed to know who it is when you're answering it. And the question is, who in British wrestling does it best?
Who in British wrestling does it best? Just it.
That's the fun of it, is the no context.
Who in British wrestling is doing it best? Probably someone like Leon, innit? Let's be honest. He's 18 years old, right? He gets to go to America. He's busy on the scene. He's basically experiencing that thing that I was talking about before.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
exactly
you get to enjoy that ride. So if anyone right now is doing it best, it's the person that's currently on the ride of getting to get known.
No, I love that. It's a great answer.
That lad, yeah, Leon, at 18, for God's sake.
Amazing. Great answer. Love it. Well, that brings us to a close. And Amir Jordan, thank you so much for coming on the Grapple Theory podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you here. I hope you've enjoyed it.
Yeah, I hope I've not rambled on.
No, I mean, you've rambled a little, but I love it. That's what I love. I love the ramble. So it's all good. It's all good here. As long as you've enjoyed it, that's all that matters.
Like a way that this was going to go and like the questions.
No. That's the thing. I never really, I have I have 5 bullet points on my notes here of things that I like to bring up. But that's it. I don't have any set plan of how anything goes.
It's all right. I should have planned the pee before this because the last 5 minutes I'm like.
Oh, I could. Yeah, that's fair enough. I'll let you go. I'll let you go. But we end every podcast with giving our guests one final bit of promo time. So whether it's at North or at 1PW with their show coming up, North got a show coming up as well, or with BWR or with anywhere else in the country that you might be wrestling. Why is Amir Jordan going to come and steal the show if people come and see him?
Oh, you put promo on the spot.
Yeah.
Why should people come in? I mean, it's pretty obvious. Look, it's like we mentioned on this podcast as well. I'm really enjoying where I am currently in wrestling right now, and I feel like I've got a lot to give. But at the end of the day, I'm pretty confident in the fact that you come to a wrestling show, you're not going to see an entrance like mine. You're not going to see a match like mine. You're not going to see a performance like mine. So, I genuinely do believe that this is something that I can bring to British wrestling right now that may not necessarily be something that people are seeing. But honestly, from a genuine point of view, I'm really enjoying living the dream of being a professional wrestler. So not to plug anything or whatever, if you like me, then follow me. I put all of my matches and where I'm at and on social media and stuff. All the promotions that I work for treat me really well. But right now, you're just looking at someone who's genuinely very thankful after everything that I've been through, professionally, personally, all that stuff, at a point in my life where I'm just like, do you know what, like, I'm at an exciting point in my career right now because I don't know what the next 6 months to a year hold for me. But that's part of the exciting part of it. So like, follow the journey and watch where I go, because like, if the last, I don't know, 32 years of my life has been anything to go by, then the next 5 or 10 ought to be quite interesting. Might
Love
fall
it.
flat my ass to, and you can all point and laugh at me too. So.